All right. We are live for day number 2 of the Remodeler Show. I don't care how many times, this should be an encouragement to all of you remodelers out there. I don't care how many times you have created content, that you have done speaking gigs, that you have gotten behind a camera and spoken on video. Anytime you're going live, you get those little butterflies in your stomach. You kind of feel like you're going to throw up sometimes. That's normal. It means, to me, what it means is you're doing something. You're doing something. So here we are. I'm excited. Day 2. Let's get a proper intro.
Hi, folks. This is Brett Olexon of Oddfellows Contracting in Lansing, Michigan. And this is the Remodeling Show, hosted by the one and only true genius of and best friend to remodelers all across the globe. The guy that helps remodelers find answers to remodeling's toughest questions that are hidden in plain sight. Kyle Hunt.
And that was well done. That was none other than Brett Olexon with Oddfellows Contracting. I will share a little bit more about him later today. What did he say? He said globe, around the globe. And the thing he said at the end there, so I sent out, if you haven't figured it out from day number 2, I sent out text to a lot of my clients that said, hey, I think it'd be fun to have a little fun intro to the Remodeler Show. So I said, here's kind of the lingo. And then I left a blank spot and I said, put anything you want before Kyle Hunt. Make it funny, make it cruel, make it nice, whatever you want to do. So I've got about 15 of them that are all queued up for the next 3 weeks. So that was Brett. And what he said at the end there was, points out things that are in plain sight. I think sometimes we chase the next big idea. There's a new social TikTok. Maybe we should be on TikTok a little bit. I'm not yet. But there's a new social media platform. There's a new this. We should be aware of what's out there. We should be testing and trying. But I think so often we're looking for the new bright, shiny object when there's a lot of just tried and true fundamentals that we are not taking full advantage of yet. So when it comes to marketing, I think what Brett said there is a lot of times Kyle's ideas are just ideas that are right there in plain sight. He's just kind of bringing it to our attention. The reason you need to do that is because running a remodeling business is really stinking hard. If you guys were wondering why it's so hard to run a successful remodeling business, it's because it's stinking hard. You guys are juggling so many different things. So there we go. All right. One word open. If you guys can tell me if it sounds a little bit better today on the audio part. Okay, yes, we're clapping. Yes, we're clapping.
It's time for the one word open.
I'm going to try to hold it right by the microphone so that hopefully it comes through well. One word open. One word on how I'm feeling. As we start today, focused. Focused. I was out of town last week, a little behind on some things. And I think sometimes when we're behind or when we have too much work going on, what's a good solution to that is to put in some extra time. And I think for me, sometimes over the years, especially first 5-6 years of my business, overwhelmed, too much work on my plate. And we build it up to be like this insurmountable amount of work. And sometimes if you just have an extra hour and a half of focused, dialed in work, 2 hours of extra work, it's surprised sometimes as you come away from that 2 hours of really focused energy and time, how you're like, oh, it's not so bad. So I guess that's an encouragement. Last night from 9 to 11, I just blitzed a bunch of work and went from to, okay, I'm feeling not caught up, but I'm feeling a lot more caught up. So just that kind of reminder to you, sometimes you just got to put in some extra time to catch up. We got a little quote of the day. The quote of the day is from Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. And what he says is, you cannot succeed by yourself. It's hard to find a rich hermit. You cannot succeed by yourself. It's hard to find a rich hermit. There's people that you can connect with from a mastermind standpoint. If you're on that Remodelers community, that free private Facebook group that I run, or if you're not, go to remodelerscommunity.com and you see somebody on there that's sharing a good idea, or that's saying, hey, private message me and let's set up a time to talk. Take advantage of that. I hear of so much of that going on within the Facebook group, which makes me just super excited. There's mastermind groups out there. There's local business friends and colleagues. Don't be afraid and make sure you make the time to connect with other business owners. It is so much easier to continue to make progress and succeed when you're not trying to figure it all out by yourself.
It's time for today's Marketing Minute.
And one more thing. This is a little treasury of quotes by Jim Rohn. If you email my marketing director and employee extraordinaire, Bailey, at Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y, at remodelyourmarketing.com, if you just email her and say, Kyle said you'd mail this cool little treasury of quotes by Jim Rohn. Can you mail me that Jim Rohn book? Oh, we'll send it to you. Don't be shy. Thank you for dialing in. Thank you for being a part of the Remodeler Show. Send her an email. All right. So we've got the Marketing Minute. What do we have for the Marketing Minute today? Marketing Minute is to expand the network of people who know what you do. I was reflecting back. It was shortly after I started my business, and one of my clients signed on with a guy named John Goldman, real solid marketing person. He's out in Baltimore. And I was hired by my remodeling client to kind of execute what John was teaching my client. So we ended up actually flying out to Baltimore and had a full day intensive with John Goldman. This was early in my business. I was only a year or two in. I had read a lot of his work and understood what he does. I was super excited. What am I missing? What, from a marketing standpoint, what am I not coaching my clients on? What are some ideas that this veteran marketer is going to share with me? And I remember such a clear part of what he shared in a recurring theme is, look, guys, you just have to focus on expanding the network of people who know what you do. And he shared that with a nice pause, like we learned yesterday. And I was thinking about, like, okay, yeah, but what else? What else? What are we missing? No, you need to continue to expand the network of people who know what you do. And that has sunk into me over the years, that marketing does not have to be super complicated. And that thought of expanding the network of people who know what you do is a really good marketing thought for remodelers to have. So what does that look like? What that looks like is, who can you call today? Who's a strategic partner? Somebody that used to refer you, maybe somebody that you haven't talked to in a while that you could just kind of call and reconnect with. Have you posted about your business and exactly what the services you offer are on your personal Facebook page? Have you written up something or had your spouse create something that says, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but my spouse runs Kyle's Remodeling, and they do kitchens, baths, additions, and basements. And there's probably a lot of people in my friend list that doesn't know that, and I just wanted to share that. That would be expanding the network of people who know what we do. Is there a networking group that you could connect with or get involved in? So expanding the network and also just strengthening the network. So that's a very practical kind of marketing idea. I like you guys to have that thought in your head. It's meant a lot to me over the years of expanding the network of people who know what we do and also strengthening it. Is there somebody, put in the comments, is there somebody that comes to mind when I say that person used to refer you, or that's somebody you want to get to know more, or that's an architect I should really reach out to? Is there somebody that actually comes to mind? And are you going to take this little idea and reminder that I'm sharing and actually do something with it? Are you actually going to reach out to them today? Shoot them a quick text. Pick up the phone and call them. Say, hey, I was just thinking about you. It's been a while since we connected. I just wanted to check in and see how you guys were doing. Don't watch the Remodeler Show and not be expected to do anything as a result of it. You're going to be pushed to implement. And there's a example for the Marketing Minute.
Quick comment check.
Quick comment check. To the point where we got a quick comment check. So let's see here. What do we have brewing on the comments? I'm seeing a good number of people viewing. We got some good morning. Really hard one to run, especially a growing, expanding one. I heard that focus time referred to as a jam session. Sure, Sean. Yeah, I got a jam session. I'm going to put my phone in do not disturb mode. I'm going to put my email in inbox pause. If you use Gmail, look up the inbox pause. It's a very powerful little tool. And yeah, I'm going to have a jam session. Sometimes putting music on is excellent idea. And then Sean, and maybe I'll circle back to that if we have another minute. But yes, running a remodeling business is hard. Especially a growing, expanding one. It is. Darren Hardy talks about jam session. I get his daily Darren Daly for great daily advice. Well, there you go. Erne said, one of the few areas I excel at is networking, but what I lacked in networking is the focus. You guys are active. I love it. So Erne, I'll share just a quick thought on that. The focus of it, first step when it comes to networking, create a list of people who you should be networking with. I call them strategic partners. Anybody who shares the same ideal client as you do. Maybe I'll expand on that more in tomorrow's Marketing Minute. But if you create a list, wow, I haven't talked to that guy in a while. You know what? I met them at that networking event earlier in the year. I never followed up with them or reached out to them. Once you have a list organized, it makes it so much easier to have a little bit more focus and a plan. And instead of, you have 5 minutes to network today, let's say, and instead of spending those 5 minutes trying to figure out who I'm going to reach out to, if you have a list right there, you can go, oh, that person, and boom, you can be in action mode really quickly. And also the process of creating the list, inevitably, I see this with my clients consistently, is that you realize that you've forgotten a lot of people who would be really good to connect with. So a few thoughts there. And John said, that's the secret, drop all outside influences. Put your phone in do not disturb mode. Like last night, told my wife, I said, I have just got to bust through some work. She went to bed early. I stayed up, and usually we go to bed at the same time. But last night, evidently, I had a jam session, and it worked. All right, cool. So there's some live comment checks. We are cruising through. I love that you guys are interacting and engaging in today's Remodeler show, and we are going to continue on with this one.
Let's get some insight from a coaching call.
Is the audio better today now that I hold this kind of up to where I'm at? Let me know. Hopefully it is. All right, from a coaching call. So this idea, most of you may or may not know, the majority of my time is spent doing one-on-one coaching, talking to remodelers one-on-one. And I was reflecting on one of my calls yesterday, because that's what this part of the Remodeler show is about, is thinking back on recent coaching calls I've had and what's a good takeaway, something that for you guys to learn and something that would help you. Literally, that's the reason I'm doing this, to build know, like, and trust, right? I want to develop relationships with remodelers, whether it's my clients, whether it's whoever's watching this, and I just want to help. Because when you do that, when you create content that helps, when you build know, like, and trust, the rest kind of takes care of itself, as far as business, as far as leads, as far as et cetera. So from a coaching call. And what I want to highlight today is the power of action steps. I call them action steps. I don't call it homework. My clients don't have homework because that just has this feel to it. Action steps. So when you're having any meeting, so when I have meetings, my meeting does not end until I have queued up the email and clicked send to my client that says action steps from 6/9/2020, Kyle to work on Matt to work on and there's usually 3, 4, 5 action steps. These are things we're going to work on between now and our next meeting. They're specific, they're smart, they're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. They're SMART goals, but we write up the action steps. So when I'm meeting with a client, I'll say, hang on, time out, let me write up that action step real quick. And I'll take 2 seconds to type that up. So by the end of the meeting, we have that. Here's where I think this is relevant for you guys. When you're having meetings with your staff, with your team, whatever that meeting looks like, you need somebody that is capturing action steps. You can call them the action step person. You can call them the scribe. But you need to make sure that when you're having meetings, when decisions are being made, or when you're talking about what you need to get done, that needs to be written down, and it needs to be a SMART goal. It's so practical, it's so simple, and it's so powerful, and it's often skipped. And when we skip it, nobody really is fully committed to it. Yeah, I thought Chuck was going to work on that, but maybe he wasn't thinking that. When it's written down and those action steps are sent to everybody that was in the meeting, and everybody's clear with what is going to take place between now and our next meeting, progress happens so much better and smoother. So maybe that's a takeaway for you guys today, is to make sure you're capturing action steps and sticking with it. That's what good leaders do. Cool. So that was inspired from a coaching call yesterday.
AKA, ask Kyle anything. It's time for your questions.
It is time for your questions. Let's see what the old comment box is going. So we got some thanks. We got some great advice. What are some questions? Any questions that you guys might have for yours truly, the host of the Remodeler show, as we enter here in day 2? Any questions? This is fun. Do SMART goals equal focus? Do SMART goals equal focus? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. When I have a SMART goal set, when I don't have a SMART goal set, things kind of linger. Maybe progress is being made, but it's kind of murky. There's little accountability attached to it. When I have a SMART goal and it's, again, specific, measurable, I can measure if it's done or not. Realistic and attainable, is it reasonable and realistic and attainable? And then time bound, I have a deadline for it. It absolutely helps me focus. Yeah. Any ideas or formatting of a script to call past clients? So John, my thoughts on that would be kind of going off the cuff is one, anytime you hear script, don't be afraid of that. Maybe you just tweak it to, some kind of outline. What do I say when I call previous clients? Why am I even calling? It's kind of weird unless you kind of think through it. So if you had a list of 5 previous clients you were going to call this week, and maybe you've organized that list or somebody on your team has organized that list for you. And let's say I did a project for John McDougall 3 years ago, did a kitchen project for them. So I remind myself of who he is and what I did. I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, this is Kyle with Kyle's Remodeling. I was just thinking about you the other day, John. Whether maybe you drove by their neighborhood or maybe you have a reasonable thing, or it's just straight up, I was thinking about you and I wanted to call for 2 reasons. 1, to see how the job we did for you is holding up, and 2, to see how you guys are doing. That's a huge, that's been a successful kind of format for it, John. You're calling out of the blue. You're not calling for, you got another project going on, but I was thinking about you. Boom. I wanted to see how the job we did for you is holding up. That might lead to something that they don't really like, or that's something that never really fixed and that you need to go out and fix. That's all right. You're going to do that and you're going to stand behind your work and they're going to be impressed by that. And that investment of you going out there or somebody on your team going out there is going to come back to you tenfold in the future in referrals and repeat work. And also just see how you guys are doing. Inevitably, that could be your voicemail, or if you get a hold of them, thanks so much for calling. 1 out of 10, you're going to hear, it's so funny you called. Maybe 1 out of 15. 42% of all statistics are made up, as you guys know. But 1 out of however many is going to be, it's so funny you called. What that's code for is we've been thinking about a project, and you know what? Maybe we should talk to you about that bathroom project. That happens consistently. I forgot about this little trick. Looky here. I can click that and boom, there's John McDougall's question right on the old screen there. So John, there's some thoughts on that. If that idea of calling previous clients because they're your stinking most valuable marketing asset and they're what's going to lead to more repeat and referral work, and we should be staying in touch with them. If that appeals to you, get your list organized, set a goal for how many you're wanting to reach out to per week and start making those calls. You're going to get a lot of voicemails. You're going to start talking to some people. You might have some callbacks, but you're also going to be back in front of your most valuable marketing asset. It's going to be a nice, just warm call, nice little conversation. And you're also going to run into leads and opportunities. Okay. Sean said, how do you feel about using temp companies for staffing during periods of high volume jobs that are time sensitive? Temp companies for staffing, when I think of my clients who have used them, I would say a lot of times they my clients and my remodelers lean heavier into their trade partners and getting people to come in that are kind of experts at drywall, experts at tile, experts at framing. So I don't hear about a lot of temp hires. I've really never heard of somebody getting a temp hire that's like a lead carpenter or really skilled carpenter. I have heard of my clients bringing in a temp, to help with the demo phase, to help with, some of the basic tasks that need to happen on a job site. So I think my answer to that is, what other options are out there outside of a temp company? Do you really just need to focus in hard on hiring somebody new and bite the bullet for that? Are there phases of the job that you guys typically do? Maybe it's tile work that you could subcontract out. Therefore, the current staff that you have has the ability to produce more volume because you're subbing out some of the work. There's a lot of different levers you can pull. And yes, one of those levers might be going to a temp agency, but it's certainly not something that a lot of my, if I lined up 100 of my clients who have used temp agencies in the past, I don't think they'd say, yeah, Sean, definitely go that route. It was excellent. It was remarkable. It was wonderful. That I don't hear that often. Can we load the viewer to the one method like Facebook or YouTube? I can't see Facebook viewers' questions and vice versa. I don't know, John, or I don't know, Ernie. I think I need to click on it. I can see both kind of mashed together. Yeah, discipline is the name of the game. It sounds like absolutely. So we'll end the Ask Kyle Anything, which you guys are nailing, by the way, and doing a wonderful job with me commenting on Ernie's thought here. Discipline is the name of the game. It sounds like I said it yesterday, running a successful remodeling business is not finding some magic bullet. It's a combination of a lot of little things. We underappreciate the impact that consistency has on business success. You're not going to find a successful remodeler that maybe you envy out there. Like, how did they get there? They were consistent. They were consistent in their marketing. They were consistent in improving their sales process, consistent in their follow-up, consistent in having pre-construction meetings before the job started. Consistency. So yes, I use that word as well, like discipline. Yeah, doing the things you don't want to do consistently is such a key to success. It's not very sexy. It's not very like, it's work though. Yeah, it is work. It's hard stinking work to run a business. Hard stinking work to run a successful remodeling company, right? But yes, discipline is such a key. I think you said that well. Cool. Way to go, guys. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got next.
It's time for a reminder to help you improve your sales process.
So a little reminder to help you improve your sales process. Two quick thoughts. One is cycle time. What cycle time is can be measured in different ways, but let's say the time from, let's just use this example, the time that they sign a design agreement with you to the time that the contract is signed. There's a cycle time. There's amount of time on average that it takes you to take a client from signed design agreement to signed project. Cycle time. And there's other cycle time of the time that they reach out to us, the time that we set up the initial meeting, right? There's different ones, but let's use that design to project signing. There are so many ways and so many things that we can control related to reducing the cycle time. And when clients are engaged in a process, engaged in the design or project development, they're excited about it. They're wanting to move forward. And it's hard to run a remodeling business. And sometimes when we should have got back to them yesterday, we're not getting back to them until 2 or 3 days later. We just extended our cycle time. So one tip on how to reduce cycle time is anytime you end a meeting with a client, before you end that meeting, have the next meeting booked. There should never be a time where you say, well, I'm going to work on this. I'll work on revising this design, and then I'll get back in touch with you. That is going, even with your best of intentions, that is going to linger and cycle time is going to be greater. And we also all work better off of deadlines. So if you set a date and time for your next meeting, now you have a self-imposed deadline. You have a time frame of when you're going to get that next thing done or when you're going to meet next. There's no phone tag. There's no, well, we're out of town this time. Let's meet next week. And all of a sudden that cycle time just keeps going. So the quick tip there related to the sales process, always book the next meeting before you're done with the current meeting. It gives you a self-imposed deadline and it helps you improve your very, very important aspect of reducing your cycle time. It's a good stinking tip right there, people. Am I charging for this remodeler show? That's a free tip. That's some good stuff right there. All right, let's keep moving.
Let Kyle tell you about a remodeler on the rise.
Ooh, let Kyle tell you about a remodeler on the rise. Well, what I decided to do there is just take whoever did an intro for me and just share a couple thoughts related to that remodeler. When I started my business in 2008, 2009, it's been a minute. It's 2008. When I decided I'm only going to work with remodelers, the first thing I did was started to call some of the home builder associations around the state of Michigan, the great state of Michigan, where I'm born and raised and where I live. And I think the third speaking gig I did was for the Home Builder Association of Lansing, Michigan. And Brett Olexon, who did the intro for today's Remodeler show was there. He's been a very long time client of mine. Wonderful client and wonderful friend. 3 things when I think of Brett. 1, when we started working together, there was a metric that we looked at and that was pretty rocking for him, which was 65% of his jobs resulted in 5% of his revenue. 65% of his jobs resulted in 5% of his revenue, meaning there was a lot of small jobs, handyman jobs, little jobs that he was taking on. And he was feeling frazzled. He was chasing everything that came in. He was not saying no to anybody. He did not have any kind of ideal client description, ideal project description. He was chasing everything. And we made some changes of saying, okay, unless it's a previous client, if the project, and this was his strategy and based on his goals, but I can't remember the exact line of demarcation, but it was one of the, basically, if the job is under $3,000, it's not ours. It's not something we're going to go after unless it's from a previous client. So he started turning down work. That's just not the type of work that we take on. You know, we focus on more full-scale remodeling work, kitchens, baths, da, da, da. By doing that, it freed up his time. It allowed him to focus more time and energy on his ideal projects, which helped him reduce cycle time, which helped him work on his sales process and improve his sales process to become better at it and close more sales. But there was that metric. What gets measured gets improved. Once we saw that metric, it was eye-opening for him. And from that, he made a strategic decision that said, this is the type of work I'm going to take on. Anything below that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to refer it out, find a solution for him, find help for him, but it's not a project for us. Sometimes we can make a strategic change in our business that can really propel us forward. So that's one thing that Brett implemented that was huge for him. Another thing is he's ambitious. I have found over the last several years that I am a fairly conservative business coach and frankly business owner. I like to keep my overhead pretty tight. I probably could have hired an employee number of years before I did, but instead I had kind of a virtual assistant in the Philippines. You know, I'm fairly conservative. And part of the reason for that is I told my stay-at-home wife, you know, hey, I'm going to quit my job and start my own business. And we didn't have any savings and it was a crappy economy. And, you know, so I was bootstrapping it and I just hustled to make it all work. But I found myself as I'm coaching some of my clients that I need to make sure that my fear that I might have related to investments and new hires and building the business does not, yes, they need to hear from me if I don't think it's the right thing to do. But I also need to let some of my more ambitious clients run with it. Brett is ambitious. He chases after, he goes after it, and he has a vision. So that's my clear thought there. Do you have a vision for your company? Do you have a vision for your business? Brett had this long-term vision of what he's been looking to build. And by having that, it gave him kind of a little bit of a North Star to chase. And number 3, he surrounded himself with a great team. If you have a crappy team around you, it is hard to build a successful remodeling business. He's had to go through a lot of people, but he has built up a team now where he's surrounded by excellence, which is huge. Cool. So we're cruising along, and we've got 1 minute left. And let's see, is there anything? I'm going to hit you with 2 more quick things. And while I'm doing that, if you can share in the comments, what did you learn today on the Remodeler Show? What did you learn today? Toss that in the old comments section. Quick outside of business item. Put some effort into things. I have an anniversary on Thursday, number 15. We've got a little trip planned for the end of the month, but that anniversary is either going to be special on Thursday or it's going to be bleh on Thursday. And the difference between those 2 things is am I going to actually put some effort and creativity and try? And that's a reminder for you guys, whether it's outside the business or inside the business, but in this case, outside the business. You want to improve your marriage? Put some effort in. You want to have a better relationship with your kid? Put some effort in. Work at it. Try. So that's my quick thought outside of business. It's pretty deep, even though it was very quick. How I can help. If you're not, we talked a lot about staying in touch with previous clients. If you did a project for me 2 years ago and I haven't heard from you since then, that's a problem. Go to remodelersautopilot.com. Sign up for a $1 trial. It'll help you solve that problem. Swag of the day. Thank you to KC's Home Improvement for this lovely hat. If you go to remodelermarketing.com, you scroll down to the bottom, my address will be down there. I love getting swag from my clients and remodeling friends. All right. Wow, people love that show. People love that show. Let's get a little drum roll. There's a long drum roll. Let's see. The drum roll is, what did we learn today? Time slack kills deals. Correct. Totally need a vision. Need to work on that bigger picture vision. Request an explanation of current marketing methods. All right. So Ernie, we'll circle back to that in one of our upcoming shows. Sometimes the reminder of what we should be doing is as important as what we are learning. Practical ideas. So maybe, John, you were reminded of some things you should be doing and you can take action on it. I love being reminded of action steps. When you guys have meetings with your team, make sure you are capturing action steps. Tate says, happy anniversary. Cool. Number one lesson learned, Rob Bauer, start a business in the worst economy ever. I don't know if I'd recommend that, Rob, but I made it work. Joanne just gave me some claps. Thanks. Nail down the next meeting at the current meeting. Give yourself a self-imposed deadline. Folks, that is day number 2 of the Remodelers show. It is fun. I haven't worked on a tagline to end this, but now go out there and implement. That's the heart of all my work that I do. Go out there and implement. I would love nothing more than to see somebody pop up tomorrow and say, hey, Kyle, I called 3 previous clients tomorrow. I would jump out of my socks, even though I'm not wearing socks. No, I can't get my foot up that high. I'm just wearing sandals, but I would jump out of my socks if somebody took action on something they learned. Take action and implement. Nothing happens if you can hear ideas all day long. We just covered 10 takeaways there, 10, 15 good ideas. Pick one and work to implement it. That's how you improve. I'll see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.